We finally got an update. I've just been absolutely enraged ever since I saw it. it's insulting. I hate it so much. I expected better. Like I it's just like the bar is so low. And it's like, no, and it's like from someone I've met in person and stuff before. Like, there's almost a sense of personal betrayal to it. Like, I don't know how much he's actually in control of stuff, but like, because he's like a senior product director. I mean, the last time we got an update from someone really high up, it was May 24th, and it was our CTO. And every time we hear from someone, it's like, because like, it's not that hard. It shouldn't be that hard. And there's really only two things that make sense. It's either people are so out of touch that everything's going to explode because they're that out of touch and just can't see it. Or they're being cartoonish villains. Like, I don't understand how people could just it's not that hard. It really isn't. I know there have been a lot of questions about how the wish list will work going forward, especially around how we'll choose priorities and put enough resources towards them. I just wanted to say who is on point for thinking about that and how we propose that we proceed. We've said that we will run the wish list as a program, and we've had plans for how that would work. Notice the we. We have plans. It's always about them. It's never about us. Oh my gosh. We have also heard loud and clear that many of you had thoughts, concerns, and ideas as well. And we propose to use the next 2.5 months to work with you, specify how the wish list can deliver what the community needs. And it's just like, we don't need to have conversations for the next 2.5 months. Like, all that needed to happen here was the people to not make a horrible decision. That's all. Or to, like, realize after, like, I don't know, 1,000 people said loud and clear that this is horrific, to just, like, not do that? Like, you shouldn't have even taken 1,000 people. You should have realized almost immediately, no, this isn't going to work. You should have listened to the people who warned you ahead of time that this wasn't going to work, that everybody would be mad at you. And if you ignore the people who try to tell you it calmly, if you ignore the people when they're angry, it's pretty clear that you have no interest in anything they're going to say. Ever. Because this is not the first time this has happened. And I find it just outrageous on every level. It's hard not to see this. It's like a complete power move. And like I have burned a few bridges the past few days, honestly, if I think about it. Because like one person told me that if I can't see how the community is overreacting, like, the community is not overreacting. If anything, we're underreacting. Like, we should have already started striking. We've been waiting to hear from the union, but like, oh my god. Like, and then comments about like how there's so much negativity and we prefer to have rational discussions. And it's like, it's rational to be angry when being calm doesn't work. Like, no matter how well you communicate a decision that is terrible, like, it's not going to be a good decision. It's like, it's clear that complete and utter desperation just does nothing. It does nothing. I wrote a really passionate comment yesterday because I started the discussion about fundraising, right? And I was concerned because like there seems to be banners going around about how donations are down this month, and just gonna read what I said. So when I started raising this issue, I said, I'd like to seek further clarification on some things. I'm worried that maybe we thought our concerns were resolved, but weren't. It was actually changed in the response when people canceled their donations. You just make it clear that your process is to cancel within a few days, regardless of whether you hear back, keeping the PR statement that is somewhat misleading above it the way that it is. I hope you can understand why I'm skeptical, given how this crisis is being described like it's some wonderful thing in the Foundation bulletin that released a few hours ago. I'd also like to know more about current fundraising campaigns, as I've seen at least one screenshot where text mentions that we need financial support since donations are down this month. I asked around to see if there's an open list of what fundraising campaigns run where and the text they contain. And it doesn't seem like this exists anywhere. If that's the case, I think it would be a good idea to have such a thing for transparency's sake. And then I got a reply. And they said, yes, we did a full revision of the message that donors receive when they request a cancellation. It's now simpler, clearer, and more bespoke. The message confirms that the donation will be immediately canceled. Any text that comes after that is customized to directly answer any questions or concerns they've raised in their email to us. Regarding fundraising campaigns, we do maintain public information about our current fundraising activities. The overview contains examples of messaging. Sometimes we are testing hundreds of variants in a campaign, as though it would be complicated to share every individual message. But this helps give an idea of the range of messages we are sharing at any given time across campaigns. We workshop messaging and variants with community members, both on Wiki and at Wikimedia events. I didn't bring this up in my reply, but even if we want to take the workshop thing at face value, it is literally impossible to workshop hundreds of messages. But I'll get to the workshop part when I'm writing out my reply. Both on Wiki I'm just looking at that link again. It doesn't even seem like I get much engagement there. I see maybe 2 people free. No, there's 3 people that comment. Nope, 4, 5. Okay, there. It depends what section you're looking at. There's a handful, but the foundation doesn't tend to have people engage in the spots where they're more likely to pay attention to. I see that they try. At the same time, I feel like there needs to be more than an attempt. Again, I'm not blaming individuals here. I feel like a lot of the time, individual employees are just set up to fail. It's not their fault. It's a systemic thing. But when we keep having the same problems happen over and over again, the same mistakes, and there's just a complete institutional failure to ever learn, it's the only answers that make sense is that they either don't care or they don't want to care. Because if you care, you change things. And that doesn't, if you bring intention into it, you can have good intentions and still, through your lack of action, show that you don't actually care. And at Wikimedia events. We also regularly share information about fundraising plans, campaigns, and results on the fundraising doc page. Fundraising report and fundraising hub. It looks like all that's on MetaWiki except for the last one. I had never heard of the fundraising hub until yesterday, and I'm quite involved with things. But I made an attempt to engage yesterday. I said, I appreciate that you have responded and that you have done so relatively quickly. Given the silence from the people supposedly listening to us above, your willingness to even engage means something. I'm trying not to sag into a weird butt. I hate to be that person, truly. Being outspoken tends to come at an immense personal cost. I mean, it does. You see how I'm right now. I care so much. And I feel so helpless a lot of the time, just seeing things that are very easily fixable not be fixed. And I mean, sure, some things are more difficult than others, but a lot of this is very basic awareness issues. Or even just being able to tolerate the negativity the average fast food worker would perceive in a single shift. A lot of the times Wikipedians are trying to actually change things. They are respectful and they try until they just even mild criticisms, you'll hear people talk about negativity. And it's true. Some people do say some really direct, and sometimes even insulting things. But it's not the majority of people, and it doesn't make the substance of what people are angry about not mean something. It's so much easier to be calmer about something when you're not the person being wronged. I've always hated that as a societal thing. Someone will say something absurdly cruel, but they'll say it nicely. And the problem will be the person that ends up crying or saying, hey, that's not okay. You shouldn't treat me like that. I recognize that there's probably only so much you are in control of directly, and I want to be clear that I am not mad at you personally. I object to the word workshop. In my experience, the Foundation mostly does what it wants anyways, despite asking for feedback. It feels insulting to be constantly asked for such feedback. Pour out your heart on the off chance it changes something, and to be completely ignored. These are not isolated experiences, but a culmination of ones that have built over time. Although everything going on with Comtech right now is a sky is blue example of it. And that links to a Wikipedia page essay about how you don't need to say that the sky is blue. It's something Wikipedians will reference sometimes when you're trying to say something is blatantly obvious. I've heard from countless editors who have experienced the same and felt progressively more jaded over time. There's not even any point for people to try and make things better. It's just wasted effort. And the more this happens to someone, the more likely someone is inclined to believe the foundation isn't acting with the best of intentions. Getting people to actually listen to you sometimes feels like a tremendous accomplishment, and that is not sustainable if you want to be an organization that survives long term. I have heard people talk about how manipulative the fundraising is for years. I even recognized this as a 16-year-old. My first edit to Meta was this. Meta edit references like how the banner mentioned the price of coffee, and I kind of disputed it because a lot of places actually sell coffee for less than that. But like also a lot of people make their own coffee at home because, you know, having coffee every day at like fast food places expensive. And I ended that paragraph with saying, anyways, I'm not sure comparing the price of a cup of coffee to donating to Wikipedia is the best comparison, even if the price of the coffee is correct. I think that emphasizing the ease of access and reliable information that Wikipedia provides would likely be more effective, or even giving some sort of direct comparison to what their donation might actually do, like X minutes of server time or something. And I wrote that on December 31st, 2018. And to get back to my comment here, people tend to have the impression that the foundation is in more dire straits than it's in. I dislike when people make decisions based on that, because so many people struggle in their day-to-day lives with the cost of living. Something that's really been apparent in this recent scandal is a lot of people being angry and feeling deceived about the foundation's assets, in addition to concerns about the dissolution of Comtech and what appears to be union busting, because other explanations do not make sense. I hope I'm not the only one seeing all the outrage on social media. That outrage comes from somewhere, and it isn't because people are misunderstanding the situation. I do not personally see the value of hundreds of variations of fundraising messages. It's more corporate thinking in my perspective, and pretty antithetical to what our values are as a movement. It treats readers like research subjects that need to be nudged a certain way, and not autonomous individuals. Why can't there be messages that are agreed upon by the community more broadly? Not just a few people who are lucky to attend conferences and have limited ability to prove what happened during these conversations. So much of the foundation community disconnect seems to come from competing values and the community feeling exploited over and over again. I don't feel like it should be that hard to have conversations with us as equals. Again, I'm not blaming you personally, but this whole recent crisis is one of several scandals where the foundation is out of touch to the point of reputational harm, never mind the impact on morale. I've never felt fully comfortable when someone tells me they donate to the Wikimedia Foundation for this reason. I feel guilt, to be quite frank. I understand that you can't account for every circumstance for what you'd say in response to a donor canceling their subscription. But I really would appreciate it if you could give a more direct answer on what exactly you mean by clear. When people get angry about the recent news coverage, do you try to dispute it or simply leave it be? Because I have a feeling that a lot of donors would find it very invalidating to receive the responses that I've seen online, and even show some examples, because they've seen that PR from organizations engaging in blatantly unethical behavior before, and don't see any reason to believe the foundation is any different. In addition to all that, I ask that you strongly consider a recommendation that I've been trying to make for years. Drop down menu for potential donors to direct their funds towards. I've seen other organizations do this, so it's not without precedent. The buckets could be fairly broad. Allocate how you think is best, technical support, events, etc. I'd appreciate an answer beyond no, that's not possible. A lot of the time, community members just want a why and one that makes sense. We're not completely unreasonable. I'm gonna give them time to answer that. Because, that was yesterday. Maybe they were busy on Friday and they probably have the weekend off. I'm not sure I'll actually get an answer, but it's pretty common for things to be sidestepped a lot. And I actually have someone who's watching live and commenting. Oh, I'm not used to that. Hi, John. Yeah, I don't like the manipulative ads. Yeah, because we occasionally get people, that'll, come to, our tea house, our new user forum, and there's this one guy, this interaction is, forever burned into my brain, where they were, talking about how they barely pay their rent, but that they make sure that they give Wikipedia money every month, and I was like, oh my god, everybody's reaction to that was sheer horror. And because they felt that Wikipedia was at risk of going away if they didn't give money, and it feels like you're scamming people, it's the sort of thing that you expect to hear in a telephone call. Yeah, right. I'm a lot of what the foundation relies on is everyday people's donations. They have a higher share of that compared to what they get from corporate organizations. So it makes no sense that they're dying on this hill. I've said since the beginning that if they want to look like they aren't obvious villains that are trying to union bust, the only logical choice to make would be to backtrack. Because anybody who's trying to not look evil is going to make a decision like that. Even people who actually were trying to do the evil thing and just realized that the public noticed, and I'm gonna conveniently yeah, exactly, they don't care about how it looks, and that's concerning because usually at this point, long before it gets to this point in the past, they'll at least back down and be like, okay, we won't do this super uncontroversial thing. But there was 2 weeks where the employees they laid off were still in their systems and everything. They could have just been, you know what, we're not actually dissolving the team, everybody's rehired. But then they were like, nah, we're not going to do that. We're going to rehire half of the team, put them on other positions. And again, it's the sort of thing where it's it's not like it's inevitable. They had plenty of time to change their minds. And within that time frame, there was hundreds of people who were vocally upset. And a lot of the time when something big like this happens, they'll be like, oh, we just didn't know how it would go down with the community. They don't even have that excuse right now because people made it really clear ahead of time that this would be an utter, complete disaster. And I'm really surprised that they haven't even tried to scapegoat anyone for this. I'm not saying they should have, but again, a lot of organizations would have been like, oh, the manager that decided to fire these people, we're firing them, and we're gonna make this right or whatever, right? That's what a lot of organizations would do to at least kind of look like that they kind of care. If I go back to this response from yesterday, it says that we have heard loud and clear that many of you have thoughts, concerns, and ideas, and we propose to use the next 2.5 months to work with you to specify how the wish list can deliver what the community needs. You do not need 2.5 more months of people telling you that this was a horrible decision. Yeah, sure. Here. I'll link it. That way you can just read it. Because I'm really not used to people actually directly engaging. But yeah, like, read it. Like, and let me look at the first comment, because we're 20 free days into this. And, like, this is the first real response we got from anyone apart from the one response I got in fundraising yesterday. But, like, obviously they're not in control of all of this. Like, the last time we got someone big was the CTO, May 24th. They ignored it for, like, another 2 weeks. And then, we have Marshall say this. And, like, he is kind of higher up there. But, like, he's also not, not the CTO, not the CEO. Like, we haven't had the CEO say anything directly towards us. She gave a response on her talk page on Meta that apparently was linked in a lot of fundraising emails about how, we're totally not union busting. Yeah, like, you're talking about her talk page, right? Or, because there's Selena, that's the CTO, and then there's Bernadette, which is the CEO. She hasn't responded directly on, like, the Village Pump discussions, but she did engage on her talk page a little bit for ignoring a lot of direct questions. There's a lot of direct questions that have been either sidestepped or completely ignored this entire time. And, like, I do not think, that that's a very high bar. Like, occasionally, like, one of the convenient excuses we tend to hear a lot from people is, oh, we can't do this because legal reasons. But, like, it's a total cop-out. I feel like a lot of the time that that's not true. Like, one of my previous live streams, I ended up, like, reading about, like, the fiduciary duty of boards during crises. And, like, I do not think the way people have been reacting to this meets that by any reasonable definition. Because, like, you're supposed to, like, try and mitigate things when they get this bad. And we haven't really gotten any of that apart from, like, head legal counsel being like, we are not breaking the law and we are doing the bare minimum. Yeah, and, like, there's this real sense of our plan for this is going to work. Just trust us, even though it makes no sense. Like, if you look at, I don't know if you saw what Jimmy said on his talk page, but it's, like, the most hostile I've ever seen him comment publicly before. And it's, like, also very deeply situationally ironic because, like, he's doing book tours for his book about trust. But, like, look at this. Someone has made some good suggestions, yeah. Like, they don't think the team should have been dissolved. They have some, suggestions for, like, how the process itself should be better, and I think that, like, it makes sense to listen to that. But I also don't want, like, people to just accept this as, oh, the foundation's gonna do its thing and there's nothing we can do to. And I mean, I did this song and dance before with the Board of Trustees election thing, and I learned a lot from that. But yeah, like, I'm still shocked that Jimmy engaged the way that he did on his talk page, especially because he's mentioned before in the past that he knows that, like, the press watch his talk page. Like, that is not a good look. like he says this refuses to fund basic technical fixes which the community has been requesting for years is false. What is happening is something that you should attempt for a minute to understand. Like, and again, no one's answering how firing people and expecting other people to pick up the slack is somehow going to be a more effective process. Like, that does not make sense. And I've also been really concerned about the NDA situation and stuff. Like, I'm gonna keep bringing that up whenever I have the chance because it concerns me. And like, I feel like sometimes, because I've talked about before, like how a lot of people don't feel that great about working at the foundation, like especially after they leave and just what they describe. And a lot of times when I bring this up to people, they're like, oh, the foundation isn't the way it was 10 years ago because they think I'm talking about like old ancient history. And I'm not. Like, I feel like the foundation has just gotten better at hiding and silencing people, not necessarily actually better from the inside. I mean, like, I don't like how like it seems. I'm under the impression that whenever there's something like this, employees literally aren't allowed to say anything about it, and yeah, that brings me a tremendous amount of unease. And like when I brought this up with someone, they were like, "Oh, but they might disagree with you and think that and try to defend the foundation." And it's like, yeah, they might. They should still have the ability to speak their mind. Might not necessarily go the best for them, but well, that's the thing. People aren't even really talking about them, but like no one's even really acknowledging the situation. But I've heard from a few people that they exist, and I have never seen anyone from the foundation deny that they exist, which to me is, it says a lot in itself. And like, my understanding is that people have to sign these in order to receive severance because U.S. employment law sucks. So it puts people in a really tough spot. And like, where was I going with this? It'll come to me. Oh, that the few times they've brought up former employees, they like we've had people from the foundation bring this up. They're like, we should respect their privacy, and it's like really, really rage-inducing to hear people try and make this a privacy thing because there's a difference between silencing someone and privacy. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would say, yeah, I'm not comfortable talking about that if they were able to say that. Yeah, exactly, right? And it just looks really, really shady. Like, if the foundation isn't trying to hide something, they wouldn't be doing stuff like that. Like, it's either like, because I mean, another cop out I see a lot is, oh, this is standard for other organizations, but that doesn't make it right. That doesn't mean you have to, normalize the same shitty working conditions. Yes, yeah. Eh, it's something. Like, I had Jimmy say that I was misleading people on Village Pump, and it was like... But in general, I'm just trying to see. I'm not sure if I linked the whole thing or his comment on Meta. And I'll just link the whole thread again. But what was on like Village Pump WMMF is now like its own whole subpage. Yeah, right? Like if they want to walk the walk, well, if they want to, have the talk, they should walk it, right? Like it's always taking credit for our contributions when it's convenient and saying, "Oh, this is totally out of our control," when we don't agree with them. I mean, I really care, right? And it's hard because I've spent years just trying to have people just have a basic sense of getting it. Like, so many bad decisions could just not happen. And it's not like these things don't have a hidden cost to them either, because, like, they affect morale every time they happen. Like, every time there's something huge like this, you see a few Wikipedians that quit for good. Yeah, there's a lot of subpages. Like, I feel like if we end up hearing something from the WWU at some point calling for a strike, that's when all chaos will unleash, because like we have 1,000 people right now who are willing to do that, and I don't think there's much precedent for that. Like, I know we had the SOPA blackout, but that was a one-day thing, and I know some people like handed in their tools and stuff during Fram, but as far as I was aware, there was no like mass editor strike. And I also don't see how anyone can read that page and go, "Oh, our plan is a good plan. We should just, keep going with our current plan and not do anything." And I mentioned this in one of the previous live streams, but one of the people that signed is like the founder of Stack Exchange wanting to revoke his $1 million donation. Oh, Fram. Okay. So basically, Trust and Safety blocked an admin for a year without explaining why. And everybody was like, no. Because usually when the Wikimedia Foundation takes an action like that, it's like a permanent ban. So, and it's something like really severe, like someone breaking the law, or so seeing a 1-year ban was like, this doesn't even make sense from their secret confidential information aspect, because if it's that bad, why is it a year? And everybody was very upset about this. It eventually ended up being shifted to ArbCom. Whatever happened, like, they were still de-SysOps, so they weren't to the min anymore, but they weren't blocked. Yeah. And they didn't explain, and people were like handing in their tools, There's somebody that like reversed the foundation's action. I think got blocked for it. Maybe I'm not sure, but I know that you're not supposed to reverse office actions. That's like a thing that almost nobody does ever. It resulted in this ARPCOM case. Falkenbeam was the admin that did that. So somebody else restored their admin permissions. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that went on. Like lot of discussion. Like endless discussion. And it's like when you don't get any answers, of course you're going to talk about the limited information you have and discuss it to death. Yeah, I would say that people tend to have more faith in ARPCOM, yeah. And the other thing I mostly remember about Fram is that it caused one editor to start writing in all their edit summaries, this edit is not an endorsement to the Wikimedia Foundation, and they've been doing this for like 6 years straight. My understanding is part of what they would want to change that is like the foundation to apologize to Fram. But yeah, the foundation isn't necessarily that great at even acknowledging that they make mistakes. Yeah. Did you hear about all the board stuff? Because that's one of the more recent things that happened within the past few months that really upset a lot of people too. Let me find some good links. There's a sort of timeline here. Yeah, ARPCOM is usually like if you try to explain to people who aren't Wikipedians, the metaphor that gets tossed around a lot is the Supreme Court, because people get what that means, but they get most of the really big things that just kind of end up being endless sources of tension. I have some complicated feelings about ARPCOM as a whole, but I'd say in general they do a fairly decent job. Yeah. And I actually started a petition after the removal of 2 candidates from the ballot last minute like that. And you know, it was like one of those personal pleas of, you know, and something else interesting that happened in regards to this was I kind of got a lot more jaded after spending a lot of time trying to do something about this and having that happen. I had who was then the CEO, because we have a new CEO now, but she said that I can change things when I'm the CEO. And that wasn't the... Yeah, that wasn't great. And then when I attended the Board of Trustees conversation that happened a few months after that, it was kind of condescending, and there was also some very big out of touch things being said. Yeah, for me, what bothered me the most was that, like I just said that, like, as the point of what I was trying to say is that, you know, unity, like, unanimous unity can actually be dangerous. Like, you want people who will tell you different things. Like, I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, so, like, I have seen what forcing people to be united can result in, and it's not great when you care more about unity than but when I had this other Board of Trustees conversation over Zoom, we had something called the Community Affairs Committee that was being dissolved out of a desire for a leaner board. They got rid of the thing dedicated to helping the community, and a community-specific space is not required because considering the needs of the community is supposedly part of everything the board does. And they assigned 2 people to become liaisons for affiliates in the community. But the problem is the 2 people who were assigned to that, like, I have tried to talk with both of them, and I have not had the best interactions. Yeah. And, like, honestly, my interactions with the one person were kind of okay, but then I talked to some other people, and I've heard about how they were treated by that person, and I was like, oh wow, that is not, you know. And then there was also a comment about how great it is the board has these open conversations in the first place because other nonprofit organizations don't let people talk to their board. And it's like, bare minimum, guys. Yeah, right? Like, if you have people repeatedly tell you that there's a disconnect between the foundation and the community, the response shouldn't be, oh, we care about the community. We swear. We're going to get rid of all these different things dedicated to helping the community because that shows we care. Like, it's a big optics problem, even if you have the best of intentions. Which I, like, the more jaded I get over every bad decision I've seen get made, it's like, I don't know. It's hard to assume good faith when you see the same mistakes and the same failure to learn, you know? There's this one quote that I really like bringing up because I feel like it captures so much about how the foundation responds to things. Where they said, I watched this unfold with Framgate 6 years ago and now again with the Board of Trustees election. But I think it's fairly consistent. Every time there is a Wikimedia Foundation controversy, you see the same recurring themes. The Wikimedia Foundation makes a decision behind closed doors without consultation. They announce the decision late or not at all before implementation. When the community pushes back, they act like they're the ones being blindsided. They claim confidentiality and make general statements without addressing the community's core concerns. They say they are listening and request questions and feedback from the community, to which they have no intention of responding. They sometimes go as far as to issue a non-apology without accountability or any specific commitments. They claim to want to be more responsive and transparent, but it's just part of the charade. This is their strategy of crisis management: waiting it out, saying as little as possible, making empty promises, taking no direct action, and sequestering the last hardliners in some farce of a listening committee, where their complaints can be ignored more directly. That's the step we're all on now, by the way. The only thing that scared them before was irreplaceable veteran Wikipedians hanging it up and walking away. And this was said when I was talking with people about the Board of Trustees election thing. But like it's a pattern you see all the time. And when there's been like a decade of the same pattern, it's like it's very easy not to do that. Like, so the closest we've gotten to something like that I'm aware of was, I think, something called the Movement Charter. And from what I've been told about it by other people is that it was rejected because it wasn't like a legally tenable thing. But my understanding is also that people begged the foundation for legal support while they were trying to draft this, and they didn't get it. So it was like they were sort of set up to fail. Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, we make a decision, now we're going to collect feedback, and we're going to make the decision that we wanted to do anyways. And sometimes you do actually kind of get like little nudges, like your feedback does change things sometimes, but it feels like you have to really prove why your feedback matters, and it's like this whole trying, exhausting process. I've seen lots of jokes about how sometimes you get changes if you try for only 6 months. And a lot of the time there's just like this failure to get it. And it's like, sometimes I feel like people genuinely don't get it, and other times it's like it's really hard to believe that you don't get it. And it's very frustrating too. And it's like, I do occasionally see people trying their best to make things work within a broken system. And it gives me some hope every time I see it. Like, there was one interaction actually recently where people did kind of finally get their point across about why something would be a terrible idea, and we did actually have someone listen at a certain point. And I remember thinking, wow, like, it's amazing that they actually listened. I wish that this happened more often. Yeah, exactly, right? And like, I talked to a board member that, you know, they should have someone who's like regularly engaging in the village pumps and stuff, because like um the times that they do that, it's they want feedback for a very specific feature. It's never, I am here, you can talk to me, here are, you know, have you ever seen anybody that made it work? Because usually when I try to explain the tense community foundation relationship to people, I talk about like the Reddit strikes, because that's like the closest thing, and obviously that didn't end up going well for them. But like I find like I wish that I could have an example to point to where like it worked. Like my best example is just like politics and like Mamdani, like their New York mayor, where like it shows that like if you put someone in a position of power who actually cares, a lot can actually happen. Yeah, there is. And like it makes it hard because it's like I'm not saying, the foundation literally never listens. There are attempts. There have been more attempts than, previous years. But there's also some very, very big underlying systemic problems where, like, it's like you're trying to force your message through a brick wall. And like I really don't blame individual employees a lot of the time for this because a lot of times it's not, something that's within their control. Like I'm not even like I know some people are like every foundation employee should have previous experience in the community. I'm not that type of person. Like I have seen people who are new to the foundation and the community and stuff who are very excited and they care about listening to people. The caring is the important part. Yeah. Interesting. I'm aware of May Day in a larger sense, but not necessarily the Haymarket Massacre. I need to read about that. But I do know that so many regulations are like paved in blood. Like I know about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. I know about like just in general, there's a lot of labor movements that have been crushed through police force over history. Yeah. I will say, like, one of the very few advantages to growing up as a religious fundamentalist is that it taught me to be extremely stubborn and persistent. um, yeah, it is. But also, people do have collective power, and something that's kind of been my anthem a lot the past few weeks is this song from Matilda, the musical, where like the girl is singing about like how just because life's not fair doesn't mean you have to grin and bear it. If you take it on the chin and wear it, nothing will change. Even if you're little, you can do a lot. You mustn't let a little thing like little stop you. And it's just very, I like that sort of message. Yeah. Well, I feel like it's hard to when you're having conversations like this because a lot of the time people feel like you're personally attacking them, and I mean sometimes people are going to feel that no matter what you're saying, but like I feel like it's so much more productive to focus on like what is actually frustrating you because yeah. Canada has a Labor Day too. I'm Canadian, so we tend to have a lot of the same holidays as the US, but like also different ones around similar dates, except for Thanksgiving, which is like a month apart. Anyways, I should probably head to sleep now because it's like 3 a.m. for me, and I was like, oh, I should check to see if this subpage has any updates. I saw that one update saw red. I'm like, oh my gosh, why are we still not seeing any? This was a mistake. We're sorry. Yeah. Good night.